Special effects are movie illusions that delight our eyes. We believe in the magic because it comes from the real world of science. Physics, chemistry, mathematics, and evolution all play a crucial role in the science of special effects. Science drives the art. Special effects are often misunderstood. They're not just spectacular visions created on computers. Practical effects, physical action created on the set for the camera to film, are still essential elements of the magic. The TV series The X-Files relies heavily on computer-generated visual effects. Yet on the set of The X-Files, practical effects are every bit as crucial. David Duchovny directs an episode he has written called The Unnatural, in which an alien takes a liking to baseball. Duchovny's script calls for a ball to appear to be pitched so hard that it sticks in a cactus. This practical effect is created on the set by Bob Calvert with the help of simple science.
David, do we leave the ball in?
Action.
These are actual pressure vessels. We put compressed nitrogen in the vessel. We pressure it to 120 psi. We have a solenoid here. It's a 24-volt system. So we would just pressurize it to what we need. And aim it, fire.
Shooting from 15 feet, Bob finds that 120 pounds per square inch is perfect. To shoot further, he needs a bigger pressure vessel.
This is our big-time home run king.
A practical effects artist can hit a home run every time.
You can see he's a lot bigger.
On The X-Files, they say the truth is out there. But the truth is, aliens come from special effects makeup. And it takes 3 of these artists working feverishly 4 or 5 hours in the trailer to get Walt Phelan ready for his scene.
It's a lot of patience, mostly, and you sort of have to meditate and go with it. You can't be claustrophobic at all.
The mechanical alien head is a challenge. Radio-controlled eyes help to create the illusion, but an understanding of the chemistry of makeup completes the trick.
Biggest problem we have to solve is make all this rubber look real. That's always the biggest problem, because we're overlapping many pieces. We have to make it look seamless and colored to give some, trying to avoid it looking mask-like, try and give it some form of nature. Like when if you're doing an appliance makeup, a lot of times it looks completely mask-like until you put some red onto it. Then all of a sudden it really comes to life. It looks a lot more natural.
Back on the set, the practical effects department also employs chemistry. The torches are extinguished with dry ice.
Dry ice is CO2. It's just in a solid state. You put the torch in the bucket, it robs the torch from any oxygen, so it puts it out. Rather than trying to put it out with something like water or something like that, it'd make it really hard for us to relight for take 2.
Meanwhile, in the makeup trailer, the mask is pressing on Walt's cheekbones.
What part of it's...
My cheekbones are just so pressured.
The whole thing is tight.
It's just killing me. Yeah, we're going to have to do something because I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it that long. So. All right, keep going.
Fortunately, on the set, they don't need the alien yet. What the director needs right now at 3 a.m. is another trick, or gag, as they say, from the practical effects department. The script calls for an ace human pitcher named Moose to beam 3 Klansmen right off their horses with his baseball. And Moose clearly needs some relief after a long night.
We'll use the guns. We have 3 of the guns, and we'll shoot the guys with them. We'll use rubber balls this time, not the hard balls we used last time.
And if you're going to be replaced by anybody, something that can shoot about 100 miles an hour, fine with me.
Better off throwing it, Barry.
Really?
Bob and his practical effects crew prepare to hit 3 riders in one take. But the stunt coordinator worries that the cannon's noise will spook the horses. and tells the assistant director to tell the director to forget about the gag. Moose is called back to replace the nitrogen-powered guns.
Well, all that machinery, come back to the kid. 5-minute rest, I'm ready to go again.
Parker.
Set.
Action. Got break.
And marker.
Oh, baby. What I tell you, first take. First take.
Things aren't going quite as smoothly back in the makeup trailer. Having spent 4 hours in the mask, Walt is now in serious pain, and the alien will soon be needed on the set. He doesn't want to waste the hours of makeup, but can hardly sit still. Greg makes the hard decision to remove the mask and modify it. Fortunately, he has used just the right adhesive, one that can be removed with alcohol and then reactivated without destroying the mask.
Okay. Now show me where it's hitting the worst.
Right there. Right.
Right on the high part of your bone?
Right on the high part of the boat.
If Greg's last effort to fix the mask fails, the production team will not get a critical shot tonight. With the repairs to the mask finished, Walt will be ready for his close-up.
Okay, just let's sort of set for.
What do your cheeks feel like right now?
We got space. Let's go for it.
Hey, Mark. P. Mark.
The alien will be needed for the next setup, in which a character called the Bounty Hunter prepares to execute one of his fellow aliens who has grown too fond of baseball.
I show you my true face before I kill you.
The Bounty Hunter's true face is that of an alien, so he will morph into the alien with the help of the visual effects department, headed by Bill Millar.
Because we'll never actually use the actors in this shot, because for the morph to work effectively, we need to shoot the actors against blue screen.
Anything else? That should do it.
To create a morph, Millar's team needs only one shot from this location, what they call a background plate, the empty scene behind the morphing actors.
See if we get lucky.
And then I'm bringing it down, right?
Walt endured special effects makeup not to be morphed, but so he could play out the rest of the live-action scene as directed by David Duchovny.
You can do it. You can do it faster than that. Yeah, perfect.
Visual effects will later reshoot the alien and the bounty hunter against a blue screen, carefully duplicating the lighting from this location. These elements are then morphed and composited on a computer at View Studio in Hollywood by Corey Strasburger under the supervision of Bill Millar.
A lot of the work that Corey had to do on this was pre-building the image of the alien. We had problems with the eyes, so that the eyes were moving out of synchronization with one another. So what Corey did was go back in and essentially reanimate one of the eyes to match the other eye so that they appeared to work in unison.
It's really a lot of basic pixel pushing around.
But there's a lot of development of mathematical algorithms in the background underneath all this that enable Corey, through a very elegant graphic user interface, to manipulate things without having to worry about the math side of things. We're looking at something, and even though it's unbelievable, we're accepting it as happening.
The reason why we accept the illusion of a morph can be explained by scientist Donald Hoffman.
When you look at a fantastic movie and you see a morphing sequence, it's in fact your construction. The special effects artists, what they do is provide you with the stimulus that will trigger your own creative genius.
Hoffman is a professor of cognitive science, philosophy, and computer science at the University of California at Irvine. Human vision is his primary area of research, and the virtual reality lab at the university allows him to explore 3 and even 4-dimensional worlds. Over a third of the human brain is engaged in the act of seeing, and Professor Hoffman studies this complex process.
And one of the things I like to do is study visual illusions, because visual illusions are a key for us to find out some of the tricks, some of the processes, some of the rules that human vision uses to create visual worlds. Here's a flat 2-dimensional surface with some discs painted on it, and it's quite clearly just a flat 2-dimensional surface. But if I put it in motion, you will see this pop out in 3 dimensions. So just look at this for a little bit. And you'll start to see the discs, the circles start coming out in 3 dimensions or going back in depth in 3 dimensions. This is what's going on in your visual brain all the time. Anytime you see depth, you have to create the depth because that depth is not at the retina. Your eye gets essentially a flat, a 2-dimensional image. There's no depth there. Those images are ambiguous. They have countless interpretations, countless worlds that we could create from them. Our problem, the fundamental problem in vision, is to create one world, create a useful world out of the images at the eye. A morph works because the visual system constructs motion and objects together. In a morphing sequence, they'll take the initial face that you see and the final face that they want you to see, maybe an alien face, and they will connect the endpoints of the eyes together and the chin and the head, and then they will slowly deform the features of the one face into the features of the other face. Now that works because the visual system is doing a tracking of contours at a very low level in the image. It tracks contours, 3D shapes, but it doesn't track identities of objects. So the morphing works because it's tricking the system into seeing one eye deform into another, one forehead slowly deform into another, a chin deform into an alien chin, and so forth. If you give the visual system a very sophisticated, well-designed stimulus, that will trigger a very sophisticated construction by the visual system. You will create fantastic visual effects.
A sophisticated spectacle for the eyes is exactly what Stan Winston is famous for creating. At Winston's studio, the conference room is a museum of his work. Stan has won the Academy Award 4 times, first for Aliens, then twice for Terminator 2, and finally for Jurassic Park. Stan started out wanting to be an actor, and he worked as a makeup artist while he waited for a break.
Because he's a slider.
But he was just too good at makeup.
Acting was waylaid, and I continued to create characters behind the scenes, always pushing the envelope on taking it further than just an actor in a makeup, going toward puppetry, going toward animatronics, going toward robotics, more recently into even the realm of the CG world and the digital world. But always with the premise that the job was to create a character, not to create a technology. So I've always used science to forge forward with the art, but the art always led the train.
Today, Stan Winston is conducting Creatures on Galaxy Quest, a comedy for which he created friendly alien characters called the Thermians.
The Thermians are done with our animatronic technology. There are these wonderful animatronic/puppetry. We've used a broad scope of the sciences, from chemical sciences for skins and textures, to electronic sciences for signals from radio control to apparatus or animatronic, to engineering science for the creation of the actual robotics, to computer science. It's all of the sciences rolled up into one, understanding that all of these sciences are coming together for one purpose, and that's to create a character.
A dozen puppeteers working above and below the stage are required to make the Thermians perform.
This is actually a cable controller, and basically it pulls steel cable, which is connected to a cable actuator up inside the head. We have about 10 different 12 cable moves in his body alone. Timing's everything. We have to be basically a well-rehearsed band. Everybody's got their own little piece, their own cue.
The art of creating an interesting character demands that the artist be very, very in tune with the science of the character that he is, in fact, creating. He must understand anatomy. He must understand all forms of the evolutionary process, the science of evolution, the science of mankind, the science of what makes living creatures live, so that we can replicate that in the characters that we're creating. When we created the dinosaurs for Jurassic Park, we did tons of research. We researched everything there was about dinosaurs. We worked with paleontologists. We made sure that our dinosaurs were paleontologically correct, that everything about them was based in the real world, the world of science.
The challenge of recreating dinosaurs has intrigued many filmmakers, including Phil Tippett, who labored in his garage for 2 years to make this 10-minute film called Prehistoric Beast. Fortunately, he had some experience with special effects.
I made Prehistoric Beast as a culmination of my experience at Lucasfilm. I did the 3 Star Wars pictures there. It was time to take a break. I wrote a little scenario, a little cautionary fable about dinosaurs. That inspired me. I always thought that educating through inspiration was a reasonable path to take. So instead of making a boring informational thing about dinosaurs where the Brontosaurus is as big as 12 buses and has a head the brain the size of a pea, was not so fascinating to me. But to make up a little story is the kind of thing that got me as a kid.
When Tippett was 7 years old, he saw a movie that changed his life. The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad was created in 1958 with visual effects by Ray Harryhausen, who specialized in creating the illusion of impossible realities with stop-motion animation.
Stop-motion animation is a form of 3D or model animation. You have a articulated three-dimensional character, meaning it has some kind of a steel armature, and that is a static, solid object that then you physically go in and move incrementally and take one frame of motion picture film and then go back in and then incrementally move everything again and take another piece of motion picture film and do that over and over and over. So once you have built up a series of these movements and run them on the screen, the illusion is of movement.
If Tippett was inspired by Sinbad to make Prehistoric Beast, he was also inspired by science and scientists.
I was hanging out a lot with the folks at UC Berkeley who were in the paleontology department. They actually had guys that really loved dinosaurs and liked to go out and hunt for fossils. So Thursday night was our beer night.
Tippett was fascinated by new theories about these extinct creatures. Not the dim-witted beasts of popular imagination. Dinosaurs were actually well-adapted animals that were wiped out by bad luck, an asteroid impact. Ironically, it was dinosaurs that would soon endanger Tippett. Steven Spielberg hired him to create dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. Tippett was in for the toughest challenge of his career. Jurassic Park was a turning point for visual effects and Phil Tippett.
They were going to be a long, wide master shot, and they felt that was a good opportunity to take computer graphics up to the next level. And they kept pushing the camera in closer and closer and closer and realizing that the things really held up well, and showed Steven and kind of knocked his socks off. And he said, yeah, this is the technique I want to use to do the whole picture. I felt like a dinosaur. I felt like I had come to the end of a craft that I had studied with stop-motion animation, and all of a sudden it was, my skills were of no value anymore.
But the science that threatened to make Phil extinct suddenly saved his career. An innovation kept Tippett's studio alive. This electronic stop-motion puppet was developed by Craig Hayes.
You can see on the screen there all the motion that you put into the puppet here is then applied to the computer graphic model. So we've got all the joints covered, and we can position the guy in space and kind of get him to respond the same way. This sort of takes, this is sort of operating as a bridge between stop-motion animation and computer animation. So we allow stop-motion animators with their sculptural skills and, ability to move a puppet around to animate a puppet in the real world and have all that animation applied to a computer graphic model that can then be rendered or comped in using all the computer graphic techniques instead of photographic.
Tippett's studio continues to advance into the digital age, but Phil still has mixed feelings about the new technology.
The basic form is of an international business machine, and it's a monitor. And where we were used to working in real space with clay, everything was done on a keyboard or with a mouse. I didn't like that, and I still don't like it. Spending 10 to 12 hours a day in front of a television monitor is evil and wrong. Some people should not do that. But it allows you to do picture-wise things that it frees you from the material world. So you can literally do anything that you imagine.
Given this new freedom, Tippett Studio created the living soul of a house for the haunting.
Oh my God, what's happening?
In this film, a house threatens any who dare to spend the night. These ghostly events were created with computer science.
I used a lot of math with the hands coming out. They come out very quickly out of the mouth, and then they slow down. So you have to sort of calculate the time over distance factor, and we can see that in my curves here. From here to here, the hands are coming out very, very quickly, and then they slow down.
Artists who spend a great deal of time in the virtual world sometimes don't have as much experience in the real world as traditional animators. So to help ground the digital artists, Hayes developed a laser to scan 3D objects, like this head, which appears in the curtains of the haunting.
And in order to capture all the detail and get a good start on the model we have to build for the computer, we put the objects on this big scanner here and run the laser past it and measure the depth of every little increment. It uses a couple of video cameras and one laser put through a lens to turn it into a stripe, and then a couple of mirrors here on either sides to get different points of view. And this line ends up being broadcast onto the model, and the cameras look at that and see how much that line deviates